Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as always, to have you joining me here today. I'm in a good mood. First time in a couple years, I finally got to go see a Toronto Maple Leaf hockey game last night. Unfortunately, they didn't pull it out for me. That's okay. I'm an LA Kings fan, too. I was happy to see the Kings do well, and Toronto made a game out of it near the end, so that was a lot of fun anyway. Okay, so here's what's going on today. Well, first of all, what am I wearing? Well, see, tomorrow night, Georges St-Pierre, the greatest welterweight in the history of mixed martial arts, and one of the greatest sports combat participants ever in the history of sports combat. Georges St-Pierre, good Canadian kid. He's making his return after like a 4-year absence, fighting for the middleweight title at UFC tomorrow night against Michael the Count Bisping, which I'm looking forward to. And he always still comes out in his gi. So today I thought I'd break out the old jiu-jitsu gi, and I'm going to be, so in honor of Georges St-Pierre in the fight tomorrow night, I thought I would break out the gi and wear that today. So shut up if you don't like it. Anyway, so we got a bunch of things we're going to talk about here today. Here's how today's going to run. I have picked out 5 questions and topics that you guys have sent in to me. How do you get a topic on the John Campea Show? It's simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you put that word topic in the subject line, or else I'm not going to see your email. And as always, guys, when you email me, keep it to 90 words or less, or else I'm not even going to read it, because there's no point, because I couldn't even fit it on the screen even if I wanted to. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's get on to the first topic that you guys have sent in today. And the first topic today is a timely one. It comes to us from Anthony Paquin, who writes, could the recent feud between Tyrese, Gibson, and The Rock make Universal and Co. want to change the tone of the spin-off, i.e. to an 80s throwback buddy cop, for one example, to simply keep it and the other series apart? I feel like it would be a smart move to make it a standalone entry. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Anthony. And obviously, one of the big topics of the discussion going on around the movie circles the last couple of days has been the complete and utter meltdown that Tyrese Gibson has been having. He's been having it for a while. This whole pointless feud, and can you even call it a feud when it's so one-sided? I mean, I don't even know at that point you can call it a feud. But this feud that he's been having with The Rock, and just ultimately melting down to the point where he gets on social media the other day, we talked about this the other day, and basically gives an ultimatum to Universal saying, if The Rock comes back, no more Roman. I'm not coming back. Which, sorry to tell you, Tyrese, but if Universal wants the Roman character, they'll just cast somebody else. So they can have Roman if they damn well please. But anyway, that's not really the point. So obviously this is a meltdown. Now, there's some extenuating circumstances. I mean, I understand Tyrese has got some very heavy, unfortunate, and very sad personal issues going on. I get that. But no matter what you're going through on that level, you cannot let it cross over into other things like this. And from Universal's perspective, is the argument I've been making is that, hey, Tyrese is damaging the property. He's damaging the IP. He's damaging the franchise with all these shenanigans. He's got to go. He's got to go. Now, the interesting thing is, this is not the first time I've heard somebody ask the question, well, okay, well, why not just take The Rock and Jason Statham standalone movie and just peel him off Fast and the Furious? Just have them go off and do their own movie and then never have them cross over again. Maybe even change the style of it so it's a buddy cop movie. So let me address that part first. You cannot change the style of it. Part of the reason people like me are actually looking forward to a movie with these two guys in it is because of the style and the tone and the chemistry they've already established in the Fast and Furious franchise. That's the reason I'm going to go see this movie. You don't get me to come see this movie now and totally change the tone of it, change the nature of the relationship, make it a buddy cop movie. Like, you can't really do that because you're just going to alienate the audience. So you can't do that. As far as splitting it off from the Fast and the Furious movies permanently and having Hobbs, and I can't remember what Jason Statham's character's name is. I can't remember at the top of my head. But if you want to spin off The Rock's and Jason Statham's and just make it its own franchise, you can still reference the Fast and Furious, still let it be known they're in the same universe, but just keep them separate. So that way, Tyrese Gibson stays happy in Fast and the Furious. You don't have to have The Rock in there. Is that a possibility? And you are not the only person I've heard suggest that. However, there's a couple of reasons why, one, I don't think that will happen, and number two, that I don't think it should happen. The reason I don't think it should happen is because if you are a studio, you cannot let talent dictate what you do as a studio. You cannot let talent dictate what you do as a studio. If you have plans for your franchise, and that plan includes The Rock, which, look, there is no denying, the facts are there. The box office for the Fast and Furious franchise skyrocketed once The Rock got there. There's no denying that. That's what happened. And so you can't begin to fool yourself into saying, oh, those two things aren't connected. They very much are connected. So that's why I don't think they should. Why they won't is specifically because of what I just mentioned. Universal knows our box office is bigger when The Rock is in these movies. People like seeing The Rock in these movies. So if that means we got to get rid of Tyrese, then we get rid of Tyrese. We aren't going to lose $1 at the box office if we lose Tyrese. I mean, the Roman character is an afterthought character at best. At best, he's an afterthought character. He's nice to have there. I'm a fan. I like him being there, but he's an afterthought. So, no, I don't believe that Universal should keep The Rock and Jason Statham separate and distant from the Fast and Furious franchise. I also don't think they should change the style or the tone. And I don't think they will, because there's just 1,000 other reasons why they would want The Rock to be in that franchise. And, you know, and I still bet, as much as Tyrese is getting online saying, me and Vin Diesel got each other's backs, Tyrese is in for a rude awakening, because Vin Diesel is also a businessman. And if Universal even said to Vin Diesel, hey, who do you want to keep, The Rock or Tyrese? Vin Diesel's going to say The Rock, because that's good for business. And that's what this is. This is a business. And it's unfortunate what's been going on. It's unfortunate the shenanigans that Tyrese is playing here. But no, I don't think you spin these guys off and make it their own franchise. I think you spin it off to be an addition to what they've got going on Fast and Furious, not to alienate them from what's going on in Fast and Furious. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Or let me know in the Twitter section when I get to the end of the show and take your live topics and questions. Let me know there. All right, moving on now to the next item. And the next item today comes to us from Robert G., who writes, I would like to ask about the release date for holiday-themed movies. A Bad Moms Christmas opened on November 1st. Daddy's Home 2 releases on November 10th. Why are films that center on Christmas released so far in advance of the holiday? Well, thanks a lot for the question, man. And you know what? I put up my review for Bad Moms Christmas the other day. I liked it. I thought it was fun. As I mentioned in my review, the movie certainly has problems. Absolutely it does. But at the end of the day, I was entertained, and I actually thought Justin Hartley, the guy who played Green Arrow in Smallville and is now on This Is Us, I thought he was a standout performer. I thought he did a great job in that. Turns out most critics don't agree with me. I think the movie has like a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, which means just barely over 1 out of every 4 critics like it. Well, I'm 1 out of 4, I guess, because I think there's enough entertainment there to make it a worthwhile outing. I don't think it's as good as the first Bad Moms Christmas, and it had more problems, absolutely. But to the question. So Bad Moms Christmas, clearly, I mean, here's Santa. The word Christmas is in the title, and it's coming out November 1st. Daddy's Home 2 is a Christmas-themed movie, yet it's coming out in November. Why are these movies coming out in November instead of closer to December? I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Reason number one is this. These movies would get smoked at the box office if they released around Christmas time. Christmas time is like the second summer. The Christmas movie-going season is the biggest movie-going season other than summer. People go to the movies during the Christmas season in droves. And that's why you got some big, big movies coming out around that time. That's why you got Star Wars coming out around there. You got other big, big name titles coming there. You got the Oscar contending films coming out around this time as well, releasing as late as possible to be as close as they can to that Oscar date in February. There's some big, heavy competition coming up in December. You drop a movie like Bad Moms Christmas in the midst of that piranha tank. You drop a movie like Daddy's Home 2, which could do well at the box office, but not if you drop it in that Christmas season with all those other sharks in the tank. No way. Those movies get killed. They get killed. Now, another reason is this. You don't want to release a Christmas movie too close to Christmas, because as soon as Christmas comes and goes, people, I don't know about your family, But people like to put Christmas out of their heads as fast as possible as soon as December 25th is done. So let's say you open Bad Moms Christmas or Daddy's Home 2 or a Christmas themed movie, say 2 weeks before Christmas. You might do some okay business for those first 2 weeks, but the moment December 25th comes and goes, people are no longer thinking about Christmas, and they're less likely, I believe, to go to a Christmas theme. Whereas in November, everything seems to get shifted into Christmas gear as soon as Halloween is over. So you see the decorations going up in the malls, you start to see the Christmas theme commercials, all that kind of stuff. As soon as Halloween is done, Christmas season kind of starts to kick in, right? I mean, whether that's good or bad is up for debate, but that is what kind of happens. So while we're still like a month and 3/4 away from Christmas, Christmas begins to be on people's minds right about this time of year. So it makes sense. So there's just a couple of reasons. There's the Christmas season starts once Halloween is done. You don't want to have it too close to Christmas because you're limiting its box office appeal dates. And you don't want to drop movies like these, which could do okay box office wise, unless you drop them into, like I said, a Piranha or a Shark Tank with all these other monster movies that would just eat them alive. So yes, I totally on the surface, you think, hey, it's a Christmas movie. It should open close to Christmas. There are some very good reasons why they open them in November instead of December. Anyway, that's just my take on it. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Gary Sawyer, who writes, does Shazam really have a large enough fan following to warrant a big budget movie? Or is this an outside market gamble like the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie? Well, you kind of answered your own question there, and it's a fair question. No, Shazam on his own is not a title that you would say, oh, guaranteed $700 million film. It's not a title that'll do that. Wonder Woman is a title you can do that with. Captain America is a title you can do that with. Batman is a title you can do that with. Avengers is a title you can do that with. Justice League is a title you can do that with. Ant-Man is not a movie you can do that with. Guardians of the Galaxy was not one you can make that assumption with. And Shazam is not a movie you can make that assumption with. They could overachieve like Guardians of the Galaxy did and things like that, but it is a little bit of a risk, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of big budget movies come out that have no pre-existing IP awareness. So you don't have to have pre-existing IP awareness. As long as I think Warner Brothers goes into doing Shazam with realistic expectations, as long as they go into it not assuming, hey, we'll make $1 billion on this and then put themselves in real financial jeopardy. But if they go into this thinking, you know what, we do this right, this movie can clear $500, $600 million at the box office on its first film. So let's budget it accordingly. Let's not make it a $170 million budget film. Let's not pull a Blade Runner 2049, shall we? Let's pull a Deadpool. Now, I don't think they're going to make Shazam for $50 million like they did with Deadpool, but let's pull a Deadpool where we'll have reasonable expectations and we'll also go into it with a reasonable budget. So maybe for Shazam, instead of a $50 million, maybe you go into Shazam with a $100 million budget. Look, you go into Shazam with a $100 million budget, you make $320, $330 million at the box office. Now you're talking about being profitable. Now you're talking about the possibility of getting that territory profitable just at like $350 million and you're talking profitable. So now you do Shazam and it makes $400 million. You made money. You made cash. You profited. So I think just Disney needs to go in, or Disney, I think Warner Brothers needs to go in with just realistic expectations, at least for the first one. Don't, like, if we find out they go into this with a $170, $180 million budget, I'm going to think they're off their rockers. I mean, maybe they know something we don't know, but I'm going to think they're off their rockers. But they go into this with a reasonable budget, anywhere from the $90 to $110, $120 million point of reference. You go into it with that, then you have positioned yourself real well for a profitable Shazam movie, I think. And is the name alone going to carry it? No. But the marketing can. The marketing can. And as long as they don't put themselves in a position where they need Shazam to make $500 million just to break even, as long as they don't put themselves in that kind of situation, I think they can be just fine. Then, if the movie's great, it may overperform. But more than that, if the movie's great, now they can start setting up the track for Shazam 2, and maybe they can have higher expectations for the next one, as long as they're reasonable when they come out of the gate with the first one. That's the only thing I think they really need to focus on and keep their eyes on. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Isaac Beebe, who writes, "Hey John, I just watched the new TV spot for The Last Jedi. Haven't we all by this point? And I am fuming. In the last shot, we hear Luke say his line, 'This is not going to go the way you think.' And then a shot of Rey with her saber drawn, looking like she's going to kill him. I will be furious if they kill off Luke before the last film." Well, look, the reality is, I think there is a chance that they kill off Luke before the last film. There's a chance he dies here. But I guarantee you, he ain't dying in that scene. Look, one of the things Lucasfilm has been doing with the marketing for The Last Jedi, I believe has been a whole lot of misdirection. A whole lot of misdirection. And as I mentioned before, there's a difference between false advertising and misdirection. False advertising would be if you create trailers that don't really tell you what this movie is. And they make you think it's like, oh, that trailer made it look like a comedy heist film, but it was actually a depressing, boring movie about a child dying. You know, that's misrepresenting. Misdirection is, I think they're showing us exactly what kind of movie we're getting with Star Wars The Last Jedi. But I also think they're using clever editing in their trailers to give us some misdirection. And I think they did that with the other trailers. I absolutely believe that that shot you're talking about, and by the way, how great is that shot in that same commercial with Luke coming onto the bridge of the Millennium Falcon for the first time since the first movie? Oh, I just lost my mind when I saw that. Anyway, but that shot you're talking about, when Luke's on the ground, he's like, "This isn't gonna go the way you think." And then this shows you a shot of Rey with her lightsaber up. Yeah, it's edited to look like he's talking to Rey and Rey's about to cut him down. I feel 95% sure that's a clever bit of editing for misdirection. Now, that's not to say that Luke doesn't die in this movie. There's a solid chance he dies in this movie. I don't think he will, but there's a solid chance he does. So prepare yourself for that. But I don't think that's the moment it happens. I think that is a pure misdirect, and I'm totally cool with misdirection. That's fine in the advertising, as long as it doesn't get into deceptive advertising or misrepresenting the movie. I believe these trailers are representing the movie. They're just fooling us with the moments. Just with the moments. They're giving us misdirection. And I think that's great. I think that's great. I'm totally fine with that. I think it's them playing a game with us and we're playing the game right back with them. I think it's fine. But don't worry. I don't think Luke's going to die in that scene. But maybe you should worry because there is a strong possibility he will die in the movie. All right. Move on now to the final emailed in topic today, and then I'm going to go over to you guys who are watching live. You can start sending in your tweets. If you're watching live, start sending them in now. Just start your tweet with @John Campea, and then put in your question or topic and fire it in, and I will get to just as many of those topics and questions as I can that you guys tweet in, those live questions. Maybe you will see your tweet pop up here at the bottom of the screen. All right, now let's get to the final email question of the day, and the final email question today comes to us from, if it will come up here, here we go, Ryan Potter, who writes, really, Ryan Potter from the new show? Okay, anyway. Hey, John, I wanted to know if you've heard anything about the demands Disney is making for theaters to show The Last Jedi. Something about a higher profit share and a guaranteed 4-week runtime? Was hoping you could provide some insight on the situation. Do you really think smaller chain theaters will actually pass on screening The Last Jedi due to these higher demands? This is a big issue. And for those of you who don't know, just go read up on it. But basically it's this. Every movie, for the most part, negotiates, the studios negotiate deals specifically, sometimes for specific movies, with the movie theater chains. What kind of runtime it's going to have, what kind of profit cut it's going to have, duration, all that kind of stuff. Quite often the studios will just do those deals in bulk. You know, for all our films coming out in the winter movie season, we want this deal. And then just do it. But sometimes it's a film-by-film basis. Lucasfilm, before they were even bought by Disney, has been notorious for the demands they put on movie theaters for their Star Wars films. If memory serves me correct, now this is back before Disney, when The Phantom Menace came out, I believe the opening weekend, part of the deal that Lucasfilm forced on movie theaters was Lucasfilm got 100% of the movie ticket price for the first weekend. 100%. Movie theaters got no money from all the tickets they sold for the opening weekend of The Phantom Menace. Now, hopefully, the way the theaters looked at it was, well, hopefully we'll make up for all that with all the concessions we're going to sell, all the popcorn, all the soda, all the nachos, all the hot dogs. Hopefully with all of that we're going to sell, we'll make up for those losses. So whatever. But it's just that Lucasfilm and Star Wars has a history of, playing hardball with the theaters when it comes to their movie releases. So we move on now to Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Disney has asked for a slightly higher percentage than what they normally get. The big thing to me, though, about this proposed deal is not the percentage increase, because that's fine, whatever. That's fine. As long as it's for this one movie, you can't make it a regular thing, but if it's for a Star Wars movie, maybe you can live with that. The difficult thing from my perspective, and maybe I'm looking at this wrong, the difficult thing from my perspective is the fact that part of the agreement is they are like, any theater you put this movie in has got to stay in that theater for 4 weeks. What? Think of it like this. If I'm not misunderstanding, look, guys, I have not spoken to anybody at AMC. I have not spoken to anybody at Regal. I have not spoken to anybody at Lowe's. I've not spoken to anybody at Landmark. I've not spoken to anybody at ArcLight. This is just my interpretation from what I've read. Maybe what I've read is incorrect. Maybe I'm interpreting it wrong. So I'm just saying that right up front. Absolutely. But the way I'm reading it, if I'm reading it correctly, and maybe I'm wrong, that if you put this movie in one of your theaters, it's got to stay in that theater for 4 weeks. And it has to have all the same regular show times, at least the ones that we agree upon. That's a tall order, because think of it this way. Think about your local multiplex. Let's say your local theater, call it the Regal 9, whatever. And your local Regal 9 has 9 theaters. What has happened before is on opening night, they'll put Star Wars: The Last Jedi in like 8 out of their 9 theaters to keep up with the demand of everybody wanting to see it around the clock, right? But now Regal 9 can't do that. Because if they do, they're saying they're committing to keeping that movie in all those theaters for 4 weeks. What? Think if you're a smaller independent theater where you've got 1 screen or 2 screens. And it's Christmas. You're getting into Christmas season when there's a lot of big movies. And Disney is saying to you, hey, if you want to play Star Wars in your theater, you can't let any other movies play on that screen for up to 4 weeks. What? Look, Star Wars is going to make a lot of money, but by the time Star Wars is in week 4, more people will be going to see other movies than going to see Star Wars by the time you get into week 4. So that's going to cost them money. So it is stiff. It's hard. It is Disney playing hardball with the theaters. Absolutely it is. And I think my thing froze. Are you guys even still hearing me? I don't even know if you guys are still hearing me. Hold on a second. Let me try this. I'm gonna try something here. And now I'm going to try something again. And we'll see if I come back or not. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Okay, you guys can still hear me, but the video froze. All right, I'm going to try to get this thing all fixed. Give me just 1 second. This is the beautiful thing, guys, about me doing this show this way, about me doing the show where I'm the tech guy, I'm the graphics guy, I'm the writer, I'm the floor director, I'm the technical producer, I'm the lighting guy, and I'm the on-camera talent all at the same time. Sometimes little mishaps like that happen. My apologies. Anyway, so let's get to the question now. Is Disney being unreasonable? Are they being unreasonable? Well, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. Number one, in the question about are they being unreasonable? Look, this is a business. This is a business. And in business, it doesn't matter what business you're in. If you're in the marble business, if you're in the ice cream business, it doesn't matter what profession you are in as a person. If you're a plumber, if you're a professional baseball player, you have the right in business, whether as an employee or as a company as a whole, to ask a price that you believe people will pay. It is totally your right to ask for what you believe your property, whether your property is yourself as an employee or your property as your product that you are selling, you have a right to ask for what you believe it's worth. You have a right to ask for what you think people will pay for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Like if I made, let's say, okay, I've got a rubber, what do you call these things? A placemat for cups. Why am I forgetting? What's it? Coaster. Thank you. Rubber coaster. I got a rubber coaster here. Now, let's say that I make this rubber coaster. What's it worth? It's worth $1. Okay, fine. But let's say I make this, and it costs me 10 cents to make it, and I sell it for $1 because people will buy this for $1. But let's say this coaster not only keeps your table from getting moisture stains on it, but let's say this rubber coaster also has built-in technology that will cool or heat your glass to keep your drink either cold or warm. And there's a little built-in digital projector that will play your movie that you're watching on the wall. So while this coaster sits there, holding your delicious beer, and it's keeping your beer cold, it's also projecting the movie you want to watch on the screen. Okay, now, let's say instead of costing 10 cents to make it, let's say that now costs me 20 cents to make, just for argument's sake. It cost me 20 cents to make. Should I just charge $2 for this? Because, you know, hey, if it cost me 10 cents to make and I was charging $1 for the regular ones, if this one only cost me 20 cents to make, should I just charge $2? Or can I charge $150 for this? Because I know people will pay $150 for this glorious invention of science that keeps my beer cold, my coffee hot, and projects Star Wars The Force Awakens on my wall in beautiful 4K. People will pay through the nose for this. And I have every right to ask for what I think people will be willing to pay. Now, will people pay $10,000 for this? No. So I'd be stupid to price it at a price that people won't pay. So I should keep coming down in price till I get to that point that I feel, okay, this is something I think people will believe is worth paying for. Disney is really doing no different than that at this point. That they're saying, look, we believe this is a special movie. This is obviously going to be the biggest box office movie of the year, obviously. Nothing's going to touch it. Not Thor Ragnarok, not Justice League, nothing's going to touch it. Okay, so they feel like, you know what, we believe we can't ask movie theaters to play this 24 hours a day for 7 months. Okay, we can't ask them that. So let's start coming down and let's get to the point down to where we think, okay, we think theaters, who are our customers in this case, will actually go for it. And Disney believes that asking for a slightly higher percentage, asking for the 4-week exclusive window, asking for all that stuff, they believe that's a price that the theaters will be willing to pay. So on the one hand, no, Disney's just asking for what they think the property is worth. And you do the same thing. You ask your boss for what you think you're worth. We all do it, okay? So there's fine there. However, if I was working at Disney right now, the caution I would give my superiors, and let's face it, if I was working at Disney, I'd have Bob Iger's job, so I wouldn't have any superiors. Just kidding, Bob. So I would caution my superiors and say, look, we have a symbiotic relationship with the movie theaters. Yes, we can make movies and put them out straight on video demand, but putting movies out on video on demand are never going to make as much money as the money we make in movie theaters. Therefore, the health of movie theater chains should be our concern. And are we putting forth a deal that is good for us, which is their number one concern and should be their number one concern? Is this deal good for us? But being in a symbiotic relationship with the movie theaters, it behooves, I believe, Disney to also ask the question, are we fostering the health of the movie theater industry, or are we hurting the movie theater industry with these demands? And I'm not saying they've crossed that line. Maybe they haven't. Maybe they're still safely on the one side or the other. But I do believe Disney and other studios understanding that their fortune still rests in a healthy, thriving movie theater industry, because they're going to make far more money there than they ever will with streaming. There's money to be made on streaming, not the kind of money you make in the theaters. Okay, that's a windfall. So I believe Disney and other studios need to be asking themselves the questions, okay, how much can we get away with? Which is a totally fair question to ask, and you should be asking. You're not being a responsible business person if you're not asking, how much can I get away with? You should. But for your own long-term health, you should also be asking, is this deal we're proposing fostering a healthy movie theater industry? Or are we hurting a movie theater industry that could come back and bite us in the ass later? And that's a question they need to ask. Now, I don't know which side of the fence they're falling on. Maybe they are falling on the side that they're hurting the theater industry, in which case that's bad for them and they need to take that in consideration. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. I'm sure you guys have a lot of opinions on that as well. Hey, listen, guys, before I now get over to the live questions, because you guys, there's over 1,000 of you guys watching live right now. You've been waiting very patiently. I want to get to your live questions on Twitter. But before that, it's time for my daily commercial break for my shameless plug. of my Patreon page. Of course, you guys know I no longer work for the corporate overlords. The corporations can do what they want to do. I wanted to be free of corporations and do this thing on my own, which requires my full-time commitment to do. And the only reason I've been able to do that is because of the support of my Patreon supporters. How do you become a Patreon supporter? Listen, do me a favor. If you like my shows and like my programming and spend any time watching this, do this much for me. Go over to www.patreon.com/John Campea and just get all the information on, one, what it means to be a Patreon supporter, two, how being a Patreon supporter actually makes these shows possible, and three, the benefits of being a Patreon supporter. And if after doing all that, you guys want to become one of my Patreon supporters, awesome. If not, that's perfectly fine. I'm just glad you're a movie fan with me. Okay, with all that out of the way, hoping that the camera doesn't freeze up again, I'm going to go now to the Twitter board, and let's see what comes up first. And the first one I've got here comes to us from Rasket Art, who writes, John, Disney is tripping. Do you think the audience would go see a Mad King, a Game of Thrones prequel, if done similarly to Rogue One for Star Wars 4? Yes. Yeah, I think they would. I think, honestly, that if they did a Mad King in the final days of the Mad King, like after Game of Thrones is done, if they announced that, hey, guys, coming in 2020, in February of 2020, the motion picture event, The Fall of the Mad King, and you get all that cast back, at least the ones that are applicable, and you do a 2 hour and 10-minute epic about the fall of King Robert, yeah, I completely believe people would rush out and see that. Absolutely, I do. All right, next one comes to us from Luis Anthony 65A, who writes, John, what are your favorite Pixar movies, and will you also review Coco on Monday or embargo? I think I'm seeing Coco on Tuesday, so I can't review it before I see it, so I'm not going to review it on Monday. I think I'm seeing Coco on Tuesday. So, and I will review it as soon as I watch it, absolutely. As far as it's you know what? Pixar's put out so many great films. So I can ask you, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Oh man, there's so much ice cream I like. Right now, my personal ice cream of choice, the one I go for when I'm in the grocery store now, is Haagen-Dazs's chocolate peanut butter. Chocolate peanut butter is right now my go-to one. Oreo cookies and cream ice cream is a long-time favorite of mine. Straight up vanilla is also one of my favorite flavors as well. Anyway, lots of favorite flavors. With Pixar, I mean, what do you go with? Toy Story 3? Do you go with Up? What about WALL-E? What about The Incredibles? What about this? What about that? What about the original Monsters, Inc.? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They have so many great movies. What is my absolute favorite? You know what? That honestly, this is one of those answers that will change from day to day. And again, my camera froze. So let me see if I can fix this again. Don't worry, guys. I will look into this and I will get this settled. As long as you guys can still hear me. Okay. What I would then do is I would probably go right now, even though this might change from day to day, that whenever you ask me, I think the one I'm going to go with is Toy Story 3. I think Toy Story 3 is probably the one that I would label as my favorite of all time. But again, I reserve the right to change that depending on the day and mood I'm in, because so many of the Pixar films are so good. All right, moving on to the next one. And the next one comes to us from Cinder Teslacol1, who writes, John, Patreon, is there any chance Lucasfilm would let Lucas return to direct a standalone Star Wars film if he wanted? No chance. Nope. That would just cause too much drama. You're just asking for drama if you invite George Lucas to come back to direct one. And quite honestly, I don't want George Lucas directing a Star Wars movie. I just don't. Not after the prequels. I would love George Lucas coming up with the concept for new Star Wars movies. He's great at writing concepts. Look, as much as I hate the prequels, you guys know I hate the prequels. But one of the things I will say for them is that if you wrote out a 2-page treatment for each of the 3 movies, just a 2-page treatment for each one of the 3 prequel movies, on paper, the treatment reads amazing. It's like, what this movie's about will be incredible. What this movie's about will be incredible. They're amazing. I would totally be for George Lucas coming back to write like a 10-page outline for a new Star Wars movie. Honestly, as much as I worship at the altar and burn incense to his image, as much as I worship at the altar of George Lucas, I do not want him directing another movie. Not after the prequel fiascos. I just don't want him doing that. Contributing to creating the story for a new Star Wars movie? Absolutely, I'd be on board with that. But I don't think it's something Lucasfilm or Disney would do, because you're just inviting drama if that happens. So, anyway, that's just my thought. Maybe you guys have a different thought. All right, next question today comes to us from rdrago66, who writes, what are your thoughts on Ahmed Best's comments about how Jar Jar was ignored by Andy Serkis as a breakthrough in VFX work? Well, I don't really know what he's talking about per se. Jar Jar was absolutely, as much as he ruined many people's lives, Jar Jar, from a technical point of view, was a breakthrough in motion capture. He really was. Now, it wasn't facial motion capture, but the body motion capture was there. And look, I've always said, as much as I hate the prequels, guess what? The biggest Oscar snub in history, to me, was the fact Star Wars The Phantom Menace did not win Best Visual Effects. Fine, the movie wasn't any good, but the visual effects broke new ground in about 40 different ways. And it's just a joke that it didn't win Best Visual Effects. It absolutely should have won Best Visual Effects. All right, next one we go to. Movie King 9 says, John, what do you think of Valiant Comics making the transition to movies? Can they achieve the same success as Marvel and DC? Well, look, they're saying they're going to do it. But saying it and actually coming to the screen are two different things. And I'm not convinced they're actually going to hit the screen right now. Can they achieve the same success? I doubt it. But look, their definition of success, if they ever make it to the movie screen, will be different than DC and Marvel's definition of success. DC and Marvel are coming at it with far more popular characters than Valiant. Far more popular. Like way more. You stop 20 people on the street and ask them to name one Valiant character, 10 out of 10 of them wouldn't be able to answer that question. Maybe maybe 2 out of every 100 people you stop on the street could. Maybe. But like 99 of them will be able to identify Batman. 100 of them would be able to identify Superman. 100 of them would be able to identify Wonder Woman. 95 of them would be able to identify Iron Man. But tell them, stop a random person on the street, name a Valiant character. You're not going to get that. So they need a different definition of success. Can they be successful? Yes, as long as you're not trying to compare them to the success that Marvel and Disney have, because those are on just a completely different level. All right. Next one comes to us from Abdullah RJR00 writes, John, would it be more successful for the DCEU to start by making solo hero movies first leading to the Justice League? No, I'm sick of, I'm as sick of that excuse as I am of people saying the tone was too dark. No. There is nothing wrong with the tone of the DCEU movies, and there was nothing wrong with their strategy of coming out of the gate with a big film. I think that was the right move. The problem was just that people didn't like the movie. That's it. Stop making excuses. Oh, it's because they didn't do solo movies first. No, it's not. They did Man of Steel, and that was received completely divisively. I think Man of Steel is great, but it was totally divisive. A lot of people hate that movie. Why would we expect that? Oh, well, then if we just did then a Green Lantern movie. They did a Green Lantern solo movie. Look how that turned out. The problem was with the DCU, the problems that DCU has suffered has nothing to do with tone, all right? Nothing at all. The tone was fine. It has nothing to do with the fact that they went into Batman vs. Superman or Justice League before having 6 or 7 standalone films. Not everything has to be the Marvel formula, okay? Just because that formula happened to work with Marvel doesn't mean that's the right thing everybody should do. The problem was they didn't make movies that a wide group of the audience liked. That's the problem. They made standalone film for Green Lantern, did not work, did not accomplish getting wide approval. They made Man of Steel. They got me, but they did not get wide approval. The issue is not that they didn't do standalone movies first. I wish people would stop saying that because that makes no sense. So no, my friend, my brother, my fellow movie fan, no, I do not think that would have changed anything at all. The movies are the movies that they were making. The style that they were going for is the style they were going for. And it is what ultimately did or did not work, according to Henry Cavill, with a wider group of the audience. They have course corrected. They have readjusted. We've seen the first step with that with Wonder Woman. We're going to see more of that in Justice League. And that's fine. Now we can move forward. But it has nothing to do with the fact that they started with this instead. Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy didn't need 5 standalone films. We need a Groot film, and then we need a Rocket Raccoon film, and then we need a Gamora film, and then we need a Star-Lord film, and then we need a Drax film, and then we need a Nova Corps film, and then we can do Guardians of the Galaxy. No! They just did Guardians of the Galaxy, and they made it great so that the audience loved it. They didn't need a bunch of standalone films before doing Guardians of the Galaxy. And so, yes, that is not the problem. So please, 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 can we put that to rest? Can we put that whole argument to rest? Please. Anyway, I got time for 2 more here, and then I need to cut today's show just a little bit shorter than normal. Clay19 writes, John, have you seen Captain Underpants? I was surprised by how funny it was. It's one of the few good animated movies this year. Captain Underpants, if you go into that movie in the right frame of mind, with the right expectations, it can be charming. It can. Is it on level with a Pixar film? No. But if you go into it with the right frame of mind, yeah, it's a charming film. All right. Last question of the day. And I'll tell you right now, before I get to the last question, the reason this is the last one, the reason I'm cutting this one just a little bit shorter than normal, is that today is Friday, which means it's time for the second episode of The Weekly Hero. And today, I'm not doing it alone. I'm doing it with my guest, Olympic gold medalist, multiple Olympic medalist, Cody Miller, and of course, undefeated competitor on the Movie Trivia Schmodown, Cody Miller. He's going to be joining me for that. Watch for that at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time today is when the next episode of The Weekly Hero goes up, talking about just recapping all the big stories from the world of superhero movies from the past week, as well as going down through all the comic book superhero television shows that are on air right now. And I always crown, once a week, the best episode of comic book movie television. Last week, it was last week's episode of Arrow was the best of the week, which is strange because I'm not even a big Arrow fan anymore. So what will win the best of the week this week? Find out a little bit later. Okay, so the next and final question today comes to us from Manusin3997303 writes, John, will Black Adam movie beat Black Panther at the box office? No chance in hell. Will it be good? I got a feeling it will be. Will it make money? I got a feeling it will. Black Panther, I think minimum. I don't know that Black Panther is going to join the $1 billion club. Black Panther will hit 800 million. I feel very confident Black Panther is going to hit 800 million. And I feel pretty good that Black Adam will not hit 800 million. I got a pretty good feeling that but it doesn't have to hit 800 million to be successful. It doesn't have to hit 800 million to make money. A Black Panther movie makes $560 million. It's going to be profitable. And that's a success. And then let's see what the critics and the audience think about it as well. But will it beat Black Panther at the box office? I do not see a reality in which that happens, like at all. Like in the least, I just don't see that happening. Oh, well, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of the camera freezing multiple time episode of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course, guys, listen, if you like this stuff, do me a favor, jump down, click the thumbs up button. That's a big thing. And also leave a comment. And when you leave a comment, guys, remember this. One of the most fun things about being a movie fan is that we got to disagree and debate and exchange ideas in a passionate way. But just do me a favor, when you're disagreeing and debating and having differences of opinion, which is fun, do so remembering that we're all fellow movie fans together. We're all on the same side ultimately. So just treat each other as such when you're having these passionate debates and discussions, because I love those things. Also, guys, make sure you follow me on social media, simply at John Campea. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're not subscribed already. That'll do it for me, guys. Once again, a little bit later today, The Weekly Hero airs, once again with my guest, Cody Miller. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for joining me, and until next time, bye-bye.